Hi everyone, you've been doing a really good job working with adjective clauses and adverb clauses. So what we are going to be doing now is moving on to our noun clauses. Those ones are a little bit more difficult than adjective clauses or adverb clauses because they break some of the rules. I've told you that dependent clauses get added to an independent clause, and the independent clause has to have its own complete thought. That is not the case when it comes to including a noun clause. A noun clause actually acts as though it is a noun in the independent clause. So it can be the subject, it can be a direct object, it can be an indirect object, object of a preposition, or a predicate nominative. So the independent clause won't necessarily make sense without the noun clause. So this is an example of grammar breaking its own rules. Let's have a little fun with it, shall we? So what is a noun clause? I briefly just touched on this, but a noun clause, like any other time we name a clause, means that you have a dependent clause. It's not going to be independent, it's going to be dependent on the rest of the sentence. So anytime we name a clause as noun, adjective, adverb, it's always going to be a dependent clause. And noun clauses, like I said, act as a noun. They're easy to confuse with other types of clauses because they can start with either relative pronouns or they can start with subordinating conjunctions. How, that, what, whatever, when, where, whether, which, whichever, who, whoever, whom, whomever, and why. That mixes the different ways that you can start dependent clauses. Remember that adjective clauses, for the most part, start with relative pronouns, and adverb clauses start with subordinating conjunctions. But noun clauses, they can start with either. But they do the job that nouns do in a sentence. They can act as a subject, a direct object, an indirect object, predicate nominative, or an object of a preposition. So there's a number of things that we have to do there. We have to take a look at several examples. These are going to generally be ideas or concepts that you're using in place of a single word. So whoever thought of that idea is a genius. Whoever thought of the idea is saying you're not 100% sure who thought of the idea, so it's whoever thought of the idea. This is the same use of a noun as writing Corbin is a genius. In that case, Corbin would be the subject. Corbin is interchangeable with whoever thought of the idea. Both are acting as the subject of those sentences. Now, our next sentence here is the focus of our work is how we can satisfy customers most effectively. Here, we have the linking verb. So what follows a linking verb? Predicate nominatives and predicate adjectives. How we can satisfy our customers most effectively is telling us what we're talking about when we talk about our focus. This is the focus is your subject. of our work is just a prep phrase telling us what we're talking about when we're talking about focus. We're narrowing it down. So that would be an adjective prep phrase. We have our linking verb, and the only two things that come after linking verbs are predicate nouns and predicate adjectives. Now, how do you tell the difference? If you can flip these two, that's how you can have a predicate nominative. How we can satisfy customers most effectively is the focus of our work. When you can flip them, you have basically a renaming of the subject. That's how you can tell that you have a predicate nominative rather than a predicate adjective. If you had a predicate adjective, you would have the focus of our work is unclear. Unclear is describing focus, but they can't be interchangeable. So you wouldn't say unclear is the focus of our work. Since this is describing focus, that makes this a predicate adjective rather than a predicate nominative. That's not usually an issue to try to figure out unless, of course, you have predicate nominatives that are made up of noun clauses. Those get a little tricky. The next sentence that we have as an example is, choose a gift for whomever you want. Choose a gift. That's the basic start of our sentence. And because this is a command, we don't have you choose. We get to skip the you. This is our verb. And since choosing is something that we do, gift is a direct object. For whomever you want, that's a prep phrase. For is a preposition. And prepositions are always followed by objects, which is why we have whomever, not whoever. Whom is used, whom and whomever are used when you have an object. So in this case, you could say choose a gift for Nancy. And Nancy would be the object of the preposition. If you can flip out your noun clause, your dependent clause with a noun, then it's a noun clause. Whichever restaurant you pick is fine with me. Something is fine with me. What is the something? The subject of the sentence is whichever restaurant you pick. So you could say, again, testing it out with, can I flip it out with a noun? Pizza is fine with me. It works. I can flip it out with just a regular old noun. So that makes this a noun clause. Now we get into the territory of indirect objects. So with indirect objects, remember the only place to see them is between an action verb and a direct object. What is being sent is a thank you note to whoever interviewed you. So it needs to be right there in between. Action verb, direct object. This is an indirect object. So this would be like saying, be sure to send your brother a thank you note. You can switch it out with a noun or pronoun. It's a noun clause. Okay, so now we are going to be finding a few noun clauses. And this is going to be our activity here. Oops, wrong direction. So, remember, it's got to be used as a noun, and we'll take a look at what we have here. Our example is whichever you want, you will be okay. What you would need to underline is whichever you want. That is the thing that will be okay. Just like saying pizza will be okay. Watching The Greatest Showman will be okay. And that I threw in a gerund there, which is kind of a nod to what we'll be doing once we finish clauses. We'll do a couple together, and then you'll do some practice. Whichever you choose will look great. Something will look great. What is the thing that will look great? We're not sure. It's whichever you choose. We could be talking about a dress. We could be talking about a sweater, paint, colors for walls, whichever you choose. It's going to be something will look great. Second one. What I wonder is why he did that. In this one, we have what I wonder. That is acting as a subject. The linking verb is. Why he did that. That's a predicate nominative. So in this one, you actually have two noun clauses. This one is working as a subject. This one is working as the predicate nominative. That's a crazy sentence right there. Now I'm going to have a couple in your video for you to do from this worksheet. We'll give it a shot. Okay, you did a great job with that. Our next task is going to be making sure that we can identify the difference between noun clauses, adjective clauses, and adverb clauses. So stay tuned for that. You're doing great.